Okay, let me just add a little flavor to this and share. You know, I've gotten to see your profiles. All right, let me share with you what mine is. And just give you a couple of hints that we've seen that might be useful. All right, I'm what's called a result-oriented pattern. My D is the highest, my I is second, my S is the lowest, with my my C kind of trending up. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of hints that I'm going to strongly urge you to think about as you incorporate what you're learning both in your reading and studying and in our conversation here. And that is, if we are using our time wisely, if I have a little bit of time available in between calls or something, and I know my clients pretty well, as you will yours once we start down this road. If I have a little bit of time in between calls, I call my high Ds first. Let me explain. All right, we've all learned in this time management way that, you know, the most important things first. And while I agree with that for the most part, I have seen on more than one occasion you pull up at 10 to 2 for a 2 o'clock appointment. I'm not crazy about 2 o'clock appointments, so let me change that. You pull up at 10 to 4 for a 4 o'clock appointment. You have a number of phone calls to make. The traditional way tells us to call kind of that most important first. And if it's critical and the building's on fire, I still say that. However, if I have a little bit of time, I would call my Ds first, and here's why. I could call somebody on the phone and say, Brian, buddy, how you doing? Good. You called me earlier? Yeah, that information you wanted, I put it in the mail. Thanks. Good. Bye, click. 30 seconds, I'm done. I've seen enough people pull up at 10 to 4 and they make that phone call and they find they do that exact same conversation with a high I, and it doesn't allow any time to be friendly and rapport building, and it offends the high I. Or the high C wants more details, and on more than one occasion I've seen somebody pull up at 10 to 4, they want to have that quick phone call because they have a number of calls to make. The high C, because they want the detail and the analysis, turns it into a 20-minute conversation. Now you're frustrated, you're frustrating the person on the phone, and you're late for your 4 o'clock appointment now. So, a couple of time management things. If I only have a little bit of time, I call my Ds first. Okay? Now, high S's may not appreciate this, but I call my high S's second. And that is because if I'm kind of a little bit rushed off the phone, they'll forgive me. I do not call my high I's and my high C's if I have a little bit of time, unless of course the building is on fire and it really needs to jump ahead of everything else I'm doing. That's a couple of tips there. Another tip is avoid telling folks and introducing problems. We're going to be talking about this more as we get into knowledge-based sales, but let me expand upon this. These are things you won't find in your book. These are things that we've learned over the years. We have been with folks and saying something like, well, of course, when you introduce this new HR system or when you introduce this new program, there's going to be some problems in the implementation. However, the reason why you ought to hire our organization is we can do this, and this. And folks think they're really being proactive, when in essence, the high S's in the room haven't heard a word you said after the word problem. You know, you said, of course there'll be some problems, and then you go on and solve that, but the high S's in the room are going, problems? What kind of problems? I don't want any problems. I know the problems I have. Why would I hire you if you're going to have more problems? I don't want problems. So just get it out of your vocabulary. It's one of those unconscious tendencies that we can have a conscious choice about. Just get it out of your vocabulary. The way to say it is, you know, once we begin implementing this, the reason why we are the best solution is our implementation will consist of. Just don't introduce that word problem. Get it out of the vocabulary. I'll tell you something else that we've learned, okay, is no approximations. You know, we've seen many times you have developed this wonderful solution as a consultant. You have really coming back and I mean, your answer is the answer. And you're talking about the savings you can provide. And you've given them a written document that you can provide 7.8% savings. And I'm using that as an example, but 7.8%. And you're presenting your solution and you say something like, One of the reasons why we feel strongly about this is the ROI is going to be tremendous because, we have about an 8% payback. And high C's looking at 7.8%. What that's saying is you don't really understand the information. You don't really have the analysis. You're really not accurate. If you're not accurate about this, what might else not you be accurate about? So, if it's 7.8%, say 7.8%. We've been in enough presentations quite literally around the world where if you're saying 7.8%, you're going to say 7.8%. The high C is going to look, they're going to see it's 7.8%, and they're going to begin to feel confident that you've mastered the details. I'm going to give you another action item here. Then I'm going to have you go back to something, and that is this. No matter what, and you're going to learn here over time how to communicate with the various styles, is that no matter what, always be prepared for the 2 lowest points on your graph. For me, it is very difficult for me to think in the how and to think in the why. So whenever I am going to interact with a new person, because I don't know what their style is yet, you will be learning how to read styles, but if I'm interacting with a new person, or I am calling on someone who I know to be these styles, I want to make sure that I am prepared with my how and my why positioning. Now, do me a favor, turn back into your workbook to what I had asked you a moment ago to write down about when I communicate what frustrates me when I communicate. Take a look at that. Take a look at your style, and let's marry the two.